Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Today we have a United States candidate for 2024 for the United States Senate, Ronda Kennedy. But before we get to Miss Kennedy, Jim?
No, actually, I don't have any rants.
Beautiful. Rhonda, tell us about yourself.
Let's just get right into it.
Let's just get right to it.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot. So what do you want to know? Political?
Well, I have to make a
Family.
I have to make a disclaimer. Rhonda used to be my co-host.
Yes. Good old days.
Back in 2008.
9.
Was it 8?
I
No.
think we started in 2.
Or was
yeah.
it? No, because I started in 5.
Did you start? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? No,
So
maybe
you were right after what's her name? What's Sage Bocook.
Yes, I was right after Sage.
So she was the second
Yes.
co-host for Veterans in Politics. And man, we had some fun.
Didn't we? I love putting him in the hot seat. Now I'm in the hot seat.
Yeah. When Rhonda was co-host, people were getting up and walking away.
Wait, and political consultants were telling their candidates not to go on our show, remember?
They still do that now.
They still do that now? Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Well, politicians should be held accountable, myself included.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to make sure I'm prepared for her.
Look, I'm not getting any special treatment, trust me.
So tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, of course, Ronda Kennedy. Moved here from Wisconsin. I'm an original Wisconsinite. Yes, I am a Packer fan. So disappointed in my Packers. But I moved here to Nevada in 2000. And I love the state. It was a free state.
Free of what?
It was free.
Mosquitoes?
Definitely free of mosquitoes. But no, it was free. It felt, the government didn't infringe on you. And if they did, everybody pushed back. And the state was beautiful. I went to law school and went to law school in California. I moved to California. And
How long were you here before you exited?
10 years.
Okay.
I was here for 10 years and, of course, heavily involved in politics here in Nevada. I left the state, went to law school in California, continued the fight there in California, made some real changes in California politics.
How long did you live in California for?
I lived in California from 2010 until 2022, so just 12 years. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I grew a practice, became a high-profile attorney.
What made you high-profile?
High-profile? Well, McDougal versus Ventura County is my case. So during COVID, when they closed the gun stores, I was the attorney that filed the federal lawsuit that opened the gun stores, set the precedent that don't close gun stores during a pandemic. It was very new. I'm the only attorney in the country.
Because bullets might catch a cough or something.
Bullets might catch a cough, exactly.
Well, and then chaos could break out too. And how are people going to be able to defend themselves?
Chaos did break out.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
The summer riots, which I don't, it's like people were arming themselves. Mm-hmm. But, and then I kept 8 businesses open. I'm the only attorney in the country who beat the closure orders for businesses when they were sued by the county for staying open.
What business were those?
There were Mrs. Olson's Coffee Hut.
Got to get your job.
BFF Gyms.
Got to work your muscles.
it was like 3 or 4 gyms, and also Coliseum gyms, and who else were there? The pizza cookery.
Got to get that pasta.
Exactly. So it's, several articles on it because we actually beat them. The county dismissed their lawsuits. My clients stayed open, kept their health permits, no fines, no penalties. And also cronies. Cronies is a client too. I came in after.
What are they called?
Cronies.
Cronies.
Cronies are pretty, they made, national news, actually.
What did they do?
They stayed open.
No, what was the type of business?
Oh, it was a restaurant.
Oh, okay.
They were a restaurant. And actually, they had, what's his name, came and actually did an interview there at the stadium, at the restaurant. So.
Who?
Yeah, put me on the spot. Can't think of his name.
Okay.
Oh
We could
gosh,
skip right over that.
sorry. No, I'll remember. I'll remember
Okay.
once I get into it. Glenn Beck.
Okay.
Glenn Beck's
Is that a football player?
no, it's Glenn.
He's he
Glenn Beck.
used to be on Fox News, and now
Oh, Glenn Beck.
Glenn
the
Beck does his
commentator.
now he
Yes.
does his own show in Texas.
Right. He actually came out to the restaurant and we did interviews there.
Okay.
He's a big supporter of cronies and myself because we actually stood up and fought. Because, Glenn Beck is about freedom and says things that nobody else wants to say. That's why he's independent now. So I've been a freedom fighter, in California, trailblazing, well known in California and across the country for the work that I've done. I was endorsed by President Trump for my 2020 election campaign, and so I'm very versed in
What did he
what's
endorse
going
you?
on.
How did he endorse you?
He endorsed me at the platinum, the introduction of the platinum plan, which he unfortunately he did not get to fully implement because.
Did he say your name or?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, we were all called on stage. It was all the.
So
all
Trump
the Black
says that I'm endorsing Ronda Kennedy for X, Y, and Z.
He says we were all called on the stage.
You got a clip of that because I want to see
I do
that.
have a clip of that. I'll actually see it. It's on
Okay.
my it's somewhere on my social media, but yeah, and I just want to say, give a shout out to Diamond and Silk and Diamond, who we just lost on Monday. I also had an opportunity to interact with them and have full conversations and in-depth conversations with them at the Platinum Plus Plan event with Donald Trump. And it's just sad when we lose someone who is like me, who looks like me, and is not on the other side of the aisle. But
What do you mean look like you?
I mean, she's a Black woman, and she speaks her mind like I do.
Okay.
And we are women of color who can be on the other side of the aisle, just like there's women of color on the Democrat side of the aisle. However, they're praised and held up for their works and that. But when we're on the right side of the aisle, we're shamed and shunned. But Diamond and Silk has done a lot for our community, so I just want to thank them. And we have
Which
a great
community?
loss for the Black community.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought you meant the Las Vegas community.
No, I mean the Black community, which encompasses the Las Vegas community, because like it or not, we're everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that your bio? Keep going.
Oh.
There's more?
There's more. I'm a mother of 6, including
Damn.
10-year-old triplets.
You don't watch Oprah?
I have 4 grandchildren. Yes, my oldest son is 31, married with 4 children, and then I have a 28-year-old, 25-year-old, and then 10-year-old triplets. I'm married to Michael Kennedy for the last almost 20 years, and
Who's also an attorney.
Who's also an attorney. He's my partner. Supports me every step of the way, and
Or else you'll beat that ass.
otherwise I'll beat that ass. No, I won't. Disclaimer.
Is that your whole bio?
That's pretty much it. But there's more to it. But I don't like to just talk about myself.
All right, I'm going to tell you this. There's a big difference being an activist and being an elected official. So we're going to go real hard on you.
I don't care. You can go as hard as you
Okay.
want. Look, I sat in front of federal judges,
All right.
and they question you just like you're doing right now.
Federal judges have canon laws they have to abide by. I don't think we have those.
Federal judges can sanction your ass. There you go.
We can make you cry.
They do have some
Try it.
recourse.
Try it, Steve. Try and make me cry. We'll see.
Remember that interview we had with Bobby G?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh, he pulled out of the race after that, didn't he?
Sure did.
Bring it on. Woo.
All right. I'll let Jim pop the first question.
Come on, Jim.
Okay, so just for viewers and listeners, full understanding, if you were in California, what made you want to come out to Nevada and now run for Senate straight off?
Okay, well, first, that's a compound question. So I'll take the first part first. What made me come out to Nevada is
come back.
come back. Yes, that's what I say. Come back to Nevada is the fact that I wanted to protect my children. Wanted to protect my children because California has got the nickname of California.
Right.
And with the closures and the COVID orders and that, I was fine with dealing with them myself. But when they come after my children, I need to protect my children.
And how do they do that?
Well, California is starting to go into forced vaccination on children. And the next step is, I could see the writing on the wall. The next step is DCFS, which is our version of CPS, will be knocking on your door saying that you need to vaccinate your children, otherwise it's child abuse, number one. And with my political accomplishments and how I'm fighting against this and being very vocal about it, how you get people to shut up is they start attacking your family.
Right.
That's the first reason. The second reason is the fact that I know I have so much to offer. I'm in California. I don't understand what happened to my state here in Nevada, because when I left Nevada, it was red. And slowly but surely, it was purple, and now it's turning blue. How the hell did you guys let Sisolak get elected? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because Nevada is going to be a mini California. And I lived in California. Everybody else lived in the rosy freedom of Nevada. I was in the trenches fighting against the liberal, communist, socialist policies in California, and it's spreading, and it's coming right here to Nevada. It's already started.
Let me tell you why it's this lag guy in office, because you picked up your bags and you left. You deserted us.
I didn't desert you. You know what
you
I
were
did?
gone for 12 years. I call that desertion. Isn't desertion after you leave for 24 hours
Is
in
that
the
a
military?
question? Objection, badgering the witness. Is that a question? Is there a question in there? Well, you said I deserve.
Why did you leave?
Cause for speculation. I didn't desert anything.
Why did you leave? If this is a red state, right? Because you just said that we allow Sisolak to win. Did she just blame us for that?
Thank you.
So why did you leave?
Okay, let me answer that question. So contrary to what everybody thinks, I don't have a cape in my closet. It wasn't me who got Sisolak elected. I'm one person. This is what I did. Mm-hmm. I went to California. Mm-hmm. I went to law school. Mm-hmm. I became an attorney.
And you got a very impressive educational resume here.
Thank you.
You got a BA in political science and government, a master's degree in public administration, and you earned your American with your law license at the American Heritage University,
which I was the dean for 2 years as well. However,
you thought I was going to say something else.
No, I didn't. But back to that question, I left for a better life for my children and to go to law school. Mm-hmm. I went to the only Black-owned law school in California.
So you're saying,
I think possibly in the country. Number one.
You left for a better life for your children.
So
you went to California to find that better life.
I went to California to finish law school, which in turn resulted in a better life for my children.
You've come back and forth?
And additionally, I went to a doctor there that gave me my 3 beautiful 10-year-olds today. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do that here in Nevada.
Okay.
So I left like many people left. Like I left Wisconsin and came here. Mm-hmm. And I believe personally in a higher power. And I believe that I've always been guided to my next steps. And
when did you get your law degree?
In 2014.
2014.
Yes.
When were your 3 children born? You're talking about fertilization, is what you went to the doctor for?
Yes.
When were they born?
They were born in 2012, in which I would say that they were born because I chose to have them because my doctor wanted me to reduce down to a singleton.
So if you get your children in 12, the reason why you went to California, and you get your law license in 14, here we are in 23. Why did it take you so long to get back here?
Well, I came back. Well, first of all, I said I came back in 2022. So we're in
When
2023.
in 2022 did
I
you
came
come
here
back?
September of 2022.
Oh, that year's gone,
No,
but
it
it was
doesn't-
9 months out.
No.
9 months in 2022, you can't even count that.
Well, last
You
time
got
I
October,
checked,
November,
Wait,
December, only
let me
3
ask-
months in 2022.
let
You
me
said that's a
ask
whole
my
year?
let me ask my 10-year-olds how many months are in a year.
Let me ask
Last time
you
I
something.
checked is 12 months,
Look,
not
look,
9.
Good. All right, let
So
me let me
2022.
ask you something. You ran for Congress how many times in California?
I ran for Congress twice in California.
And what was your percentage?
That's kind of not specific. It's ambiguous. Can you
What
year?
was your percentage? When you ran against Schiff, you got 8.5%.
Against 4 other Republicans.
No, 3. You came in third
Oh,
place.
I'm sorry, and an independent.
You came in third place in that one.
And can we? Okay, so I came in third place. However, I'm the Republican nominee. Why? Let's explain what California. California is a jungle primary.
If you would have became Congress in California, would you be here today?
If I would have won my congressional seat in
Would
California,
you be here today?
Well, is that a real question?
That's a real question. Everybody wants to know.
So you would. Okay, people. First of all, I'm not a lunatic. I'm not certifiable. Why the hell would I win a seat against Adam Schiff and then walk away and let the Democrats essentially pick that seat?
So you wouldn't be here so is it fair to say that the reason you're here in Nevada is because you can't win in California? Is that a fair assessment? Is that a fair question?
The reason why I'm here? No, that's not a fair question.
Are you pulling a Sam Brown that was two times?
Okay.
Hold on.
No. You're not going to ask me a question. Not going to ask me a question and not let me answer.
I'm going to let you answer.
Is this an interview or is this an interview or commentation? Are you commentating or are you interviewing?
It's an interview.
Okay,
I
well,
told
you
you I
asked me a
wasn't going to
question.
be easy.
Don't be easy, but
Okay,
at
you
least
say bring it. I'm bringing it.
Then
As
give
soon
me
as you say bring it, I'm bringing it.
give me the opportunity to answer the
It's a
question.
two-part question.
Don't be Joe Biden. Don't be the Democrats.
Okay.
Give me an opportunity to ask the question if you ask the question.
It's a two-part question.
That's a compound question.
Okay, it's a compound question.
Okay,
so are you pulling the same thing Sam Brown did in Texas? He couldn't win Texas, so he came here to try to win Senate.
I chose Nevada. You know why?
Why?
Because honestly, I was asked to go to Florida to run in Florida and participate in Florida politics.
Okay.
I chose Nevada because this is where I came. When I left Wisconsin with nothing, running from my violent ex-husband. Can I finish? Running from my violent ex-husband who was on trial for attempted murder of myself. This is where I came to. This was my sanctuary. Okay. I came back home to Nevada. I could have gone to Florida, love Florida.
What do you mean you came back home to Nevada?
I came back home to Nevada.
Were you living in Nevada and then
where
went to
my
Wisconsin?
kids, let me tell you, where my kids were raised, where I met my husband, where my life was, where I got my freedom from my abusive ex-husband, I consider home.
You consider Nevada home?
I consider Nevada
So were you living in Nevada, then you moved to Wisconsin?
No, are you listening? I was living. I said I was a Wisconsinite, which means I was born and raised in Wisconsin. I came to Nevada when I was 28 years old. I lived the majority of my adult life in Nevada.
So what do you say about those people that are in that's running for you as Senate that's been here 30 years, 20 years and never missed a beat?
Missed what beat?
Never left.
Excuse me.
Never left.
Why was Sisolak elected?
No, we're not talking about.
No. You asked me a question. You asked me a question. This is what I tell you. 30 years. You were here for 30 years. What the hell have you done for 30 years? Because when I'm
not running for office.
Okay, first of all,
haven't missed a beat. We've been on the air since 2005.
Now, when I say you, I'm referring to these people who lived here for 30 years that you just, you know.
So you're not referring to me. You're referring to.
You said no. This is, and I quote. You said, "What do you say to the people that have been here for 30?" So this is what I say, not to you, but this is what I say to the people who've been here for 30 years. Now, may I answer the question?
You sure can.
Thank you. This is what I say.
What do you say?
You've been here for 30 years.
Okay.
Since I've been gone, it's went from a red state to a purple state with a Democrat governor. I came here. I was here when when Las Vegas closed down from COVID, and the Strip was empty and closed.
You came here in 22.
No, I came to Vegas twice a month.
Visit.
Twice a month, I would come to Vegas twice a month, and every time I came here, something else changed and was different. It wasn't the same. It was coming because I spent other time in the trenches. When I say the trenches, California is the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it starts with all the policies that you have here, the bad policy you have here and across the country. It starts in California. And it spreads like a disease across the country. I was in the trenches fighting against those policies. And my escape was coming to Las Vegas. And every time I come, it's something different. And what got me was when the Strip was closed down. Unprecedented. Why? Because we had Sisolak that was at the helm leading things. That would have never happened.
All right, so Sisolak
never happened.
is
So
out
then
of
what I'm
office.
saying, so now back to
Sisolak is out of
yes,
office.
now back to your question.
Okay.
I would say you've been here for 30 years. It doesn't matter how long you're here. You've been here for 30 years and stuff is not getting better. It got worse. And
Well, it got
the
better.
other thing is
Lombardo just became governor.
2023. Thank you. Strip's already
Sisolak was only
Thank
in
you.
office for 4 years.
You know what? You go say that to those mom and pop businesses that Sisolak closed down, right? They're not going to be saying, "Oh yeah, woo! Now we got a Republican governor," because they're out of businesses.
You know, they
Their
closed
people
down.
don't
They
have no
closed down a
jobs.
lot of stuff in California too. But moving
No,
on.
not my 8 businesses that I kept open. They didn't.
Okay, those 8 stayed
Oh,
open.
and
but the others
we're in the
are
Ninth Circuit.
closed.
We're in the Ninth Circuit, and you know what? To say that as a patriot, when you have our founding fathers, who is just a few people who stood up to the greatest and the most powerful country in the entire world at the time, my 8 businesses that I kept open is a victory for freedom. And I have to say, Nevada is in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the same circuit that I was in that I beat the gun stores. This is a open carry state, a Second Amendment state. Why the hell couldn't they keep the gun stores open? I did it in California.
Maybe you should have came back after you got your 3 kids and after you got your law degree and came right back. But why did you stay there so long?
Because this is America. I can live where I want to live. I can move when I want to
True.
move. And I can run. And there is no prerequisite to run for office that I got to live here for 30 years. You know what that would be? That's just like having a poll tax.
True. Why did you run in so many different districts in California?
Well, I ran in the 26th district. And then I ran again in the 26th district. However,
and then what other district?
However, if you will allow me to finish.
Sure.
However, I was asked to consider running against Adam Schiff by Roger Stone because there was no one that could beat him.
So you got up and moved?
Can I finish?
Sure.
There was no one that could beat him, and he believed that I could beat him, and that I was a wasted candidate running against a nobody because of who I am, because of my accomplishments, because I'm not afraid of saying what needs to be said, and I did. And you know what? Adam Schiff was the one who was scared. Adam Schiff was the one who was
he ain't
targeting
no more,
me.
though.
He was Adam Schiff was targeting me. All the candidates in that race, he targeted me.
So
why? Because I was the one that he was afraid of.
So how many different districts did you run for
2.
congressionals? 2.
2. Oh, do you know the rules of running for Congress and Senate?
No, tell me.
You don't have to. Number 1, to run for Congress, you don't have to live in the district. Number 2, to run, you could form your committee in another state.
So you didn't have to move.
There.
You just
No,
ran.
I don't have to move because.
Did you move or did you not move?
No, I didn't move.
You didn't move.
No.
Okay.
I was going to move to Adam Schiff's district. Are you kidding? I'm going to move to a blue district. I'd move there once I could be there to clean it up.
But you ran for that district.
Yes, and you absolutely can, because you know why?
But it's a blue district. Why'd you run in a blue district then?
Why do you think?
Tell me.
Do you think a blue district is good?
I don't know.
Do you think people, homeless people laying on the street and crapping in the middle?
But you ran for that district.
So that I can change that district.
But did you believe you could win in that district?
I did believe I could win. And if you look at the numbers, if you, Mr. Mathematician,
I didn't say I'm a mathematician.
if you look
That's
at the
Ron Q.
numbers, if you look at the number of people who voted against Adam Schiff.
But thanks for the compliment.
If you look at the number of people who voted against Adam Schiff, and actually,
well, Adam Schiff got 102,000 votes,
and I'm the only one who
62.5%.
I'm the only one who actually won Democrat precincts. Democrats, Republicans, independents decline the states. I am the cross the board, crossing political aisles candidate because I am not about a party. I am about the people and I am about the Constitution.
Okay. That's good. What happens if people start labeling you as a carpetbagger? What would you say to those folks?
I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin where we were the only black family. People label me the N-word. Did I say that's what I am and accept it? No. I don't give a shit what people say about me.
Okay.
I know my record. And you know what? Call me a carpetbagger. Carpetbagger is a racist term. That term was derived by plantation Democrat owners who said that for black people and
they call white people carpetbaggers too.
Can I finish? Yeah, but maybe because they don't know the history.
Tell us.
Okay,
Tell us.
The history is free slaves and Northerners who came to the South during the Reconstruction for better opportunities were called carpetbaggers. So I take that carpetbagger term very offensively because I am a direct descendant of slaves.
You got thick skin though, right?
I'm 3 generations direct descendant of slave. My great-great-grandfather escaped from a Missouri plantation, joined the Union Army as a water boy. Calvin Reeves, you can Google him. You can Google most of the people in my family. They'll show up.
What's his name?
Calvin Reeves. I have the news articles. It's CalvinReeves.
Okay.
And then Leroy J. Simmons was the first black state assemblyman for Wisconsin.
Okay. Do you think since you brought up race, do you think race and gender is going to get you over the finish line? People are going to vote for Ronda Kennedy because she's female and because she's a black female.
People are going to vote for
Do you think Republicans are going to do that?
I think people are going to vote for me because I get shit done. And people are walking around with guns during COVID because as soon as it hit, I got the phone calls. I was at home. People called me because the gun stores were closed. Why? Because
I'm leaving the gun store.
They know.
You keep going back to the gun store.
You just asked me a question. You said
I asked you about race and gender,
and I said this is why people are going to vote for me, not because of my gender, my race. I said people are going to vote for me because I'm Ronda Kennedy and I get shit done, and I'm not afraid of people.
So you don't think they're going to vote for you because you're a black woman?
Well, first of all, that's speculation. I don't know what internal reasons people will vote for me. Okay. I'm saying I don't think that is going to exactly be a deciding factor. Okay. I think possibly, I don't know about Republicans, but I think for crossover votes, I think would be more comfortable with me than any other candidate.
But you first got to get out of the Republican primary, and the blacks in the Republican primary in this state, Jim, is absolutely ridiculously low.
That's another thing. How, you know what? I'm going to say
You're going to have to get out of the Republican primary before you get a general election.
You're making my point for me. Between Joe Collins and myself, do you know how many black people we have registered as Republicans in California? What the hell is going on in Nevada then? Why is the Republican black vote so low?
Maybe you should have came out here.
Why is y'all so low?
Increase that before you ran.
Do you have? Let me ask you this: Does the Nevada Republican Party have like a special initiative, or did they set a committee to go and recruit black voters?
No,
I'm just curious.
No.
Why?
Because
our vote don't count?
You go to Republican functions in this state, and you could probably count 5, 10 black people on one hand.
Why?
So if you're thinking,
I'm asking you why?
Because they don't recruit. If you're thinking,
that's my point. We recruited in California, the state that you talk shit about.
Republican Party.
Like why? That's exactly why I came here, because this red state should do more to recruit blacks and minorities to the Republican Party, because deep down inside, we're all Republicans. When you ask a Latino, when you ask a Latino, when you ask a Black person, when you ask the Asian, when you ask different people of color about their values, about the economics, about this, they always answer on the lines of Republicans. So why aren't they Republicans? Because there's not enough effort to recruit them. And you know what that says? That says that you don't care about me, because you don't even take the time to come knock on my door or go to the places that I am to tell me why I should vote for you or why I should join your party.
And I'm thinking
that's number one.
And I'm thinking, and we know a lot of the politicians here in town or here in the state of Nevada. How many Black female Republicans that filled an elected seat in the state? Could you name me one, Jim?
Well, I have the West Side.
None.
I got a lot of the West Side people.
What does that mean? You have the West Side.
Excuse me. Let me tell you about the different towns in Las Vegas, because if you don't know what the West Side is, that's part of the problem of why we're not getting the Black vote.
You know,
so let me clarify that though.
Thank you.
I do know some Black politicians
here
that are Republican. There's one in she lost.
Man, that's just, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like, oh, I got a Black friend.
And you can't.
Ronda, I'm telling you, you and I are on the exact same page with the retail problem.
But what I'm saying is that what you have to do when you have to say, I think I know one. It's like you should be like, here's this, but you can't. It's just like people say, oh yeah, I had a Black friend, and then you name one person. It's just like that, and that's the problem. And I want to take what I did, and I think California may not be able to be saved,
right?
But I think Nevada can be saved. We can stop. It's like cutting out.
You want to know what I was told by the Democratic Party here in the state?
You know, they have a file on me.
You know what I was told by
the DNC has a file.
You know what I was told by the Democratic Party here in this state?
What were you told?
They go, Mr. Sanson, if you were a registered Democrat, you would have been in office a long time ago.
I was told the same thing.
So why are you running as a Republican then?
Because I have integrity.
Do you think you're going to make it out of this primary? That's basically all white people?
I don't give a shit what color they are. I have integrity. I've been
You're going to need to give a shit if you want their vote.
Did you not just hear that my great-great-grandfather was a runaway slave from a Democrat, a literal Democrat plantation? There's no way in hell I'm going to join the party that he escaped from, that wanted to hold him down, wanted me to be, I'd probably be a slave today if the Democrats won. I'm not. I don't care if it's easy. That is called selling out. I'm not a sellout. I'm not going to join the Democrat. I would be elected like that as a Democrat. I know I would. But I have integrity. And I'm not going to spit on the grave of my ancestors and join the Democrat Party. Period. I'll work with them.
Yeah.
All day long, as we should, across the aisle. Yeah. But me personally, I'm not joining that party.
How important you believe race and gender is in this campain for U.S. Senate?
Race what?
Race and gender. How important you think that?
Didn't you just ask that question? Objection asked and answered.
No, I just wanted to hear it again.
How important it is?
Yeah, how important you think?
How important to whom?
To the voters here in the state.
I mean, I hope it's not that important. I would hope that the voters look at the individual candidates, because that's just like saying, what do you think party affiliation is to this election? Mm-hmm. Because as we know, the majority of women and people of color will automatically turn to Democrat. Do I think that I have an uphill battle? Yes, I do. Do I think that I can win this in the general? I can win the election and beat Rosen? Yes, I do. I think I can, just because of who I am. I don't know if you've watched
Who are you?
I'm the force that will not stop. Mm-hmm. I'm the force that will call you out. I'm the force that's not afraid of saying what needs to be said, regardless of my own detriment. Mm-hmm. That's who I am. I'm about right. I'm about protecting the people. I'm about protecting people who can't protect themselves, the most vulnerable community. Like when I had an opportunity to talk to Ben Carson about my housing program. Yeah. My housing program is the FHA, rehauling the FHA program. Why is 3 private organizations, the credit bureaus, They're in charge of your entire life. And people of color are targeted the most. If they determine where you're going to live, you live where you can based on your credit score. I mean, because you're not going to be going to Beverly Hills with a low credit score, and what kind of car you're going to drive, even the rate of your insurance. Yeah. But the FHA is a government-backed program, just like a student loan. Right. So FHA can put their guidelines on the bank. The bank the FHA doesn't require a minimum credit score. That's all by the banks. So the FHA can say, use your rental history. If you rented a place for 6 months to a year or 3 years or whatever, you should qualify for an FHA, because a lot of times rent is more than a mortgage. And you're actually making generational wealth for your family, not a Section 8 voucher. You can't inherit a Section 8 voucher, but you can inherit a house. So why aren't they telling the banks, if you want to do FHA loans, there's no credit requirement, base it on the rental history? And I got that inspiration from an Uber driver in DC who rented a house for damn near 30 years. He basically paid that mortgage and he couldn't buy a house. That's wrong in America. And guess what he was? He was an African-American man. So if the Democrats really cared about the Black community and minority communities, why aren't they doing things like that? Why the PPE loans? Okay, people's credit score dropped because they weren't paying their credit card bills when they were locked down during COVID with no jobs. They were using their credit cards to buy food, right, basic things they needed to live. But guess what? You can't get a loan if you have a low credit score. Why didn't the Democrat Congress think about that when they enacted the plan in the first place? They should have said, your credit is frozen, whatever your credit was prior to COVID, not now, because who's going to pay their credit card bills? Or they're going to pay their food, buy food for their families and take care of their families, not pay their credit card bills. Things like that. That is things that cross the aisle. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democrat thing. It's an American thing.
Are you vaccinated?
Hell no.
I guess you don't believe in the vaccination then.
I believe in my choice, my body, my choice. That's what I believe in. I believe in medical freedom. If you want to get the vaccine, that's your business. If I don't want to get the vaccine, that's my business. But the government should not be telling you what to do with your own body. Like, I'm a woman, right? The Democrats always tell me it's my body, my choice. Yeah. So isn't it my body, my choice when it comes to the vaccine?
You would think so. Seems a little hypocritical.
And it's just like the Republicans, they say less government, right? But yet they're telling you can't or cannot have an abortion, or who you can or you can't love, or who you can or you can't marry. It's just, both parties are hypocritical to me.
Yes, they are.
Very hypocritical.
And if you can see, I'm critical on both parties, because at the end of the day, they're people.
And they say you have to have separation between church and state, but people that get elected bring their damn religion right into doggone politics and make their decisions by that, just like some judges.
Well, And what I think, and this is one of the other lawsuits I was going to do with the meeting time when I get some time, is that I feel that churches should be able to be involved in politics in regards to telling their parishioners who to vote for and discussing political things.
So you don't believe in separation of church and state?
That is the separation of church and state. My pastor telling me who they think I should vote for, how is that getting involved in government? But yet and still, the ones that get involved in government are the unions. Aren't they nonprofit too? Mm-hmm. So why don't pay
They're
taxes?
Nonprofit.
So, but why are they all up in politics?
Technically, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a lawyer, so I'm sure you know the answer to this. Isn't the whole separation of church and state thing? No, wasn't. Someone told me that was actually an opinion letter that was written, because as far as I know, the only thing government can't. They can't create their own religion
and force you to participate,
right,
and you could have religion.
But I don't
understand.
Freedom. Like, they didn't create the Catholic Church. They didn't create the Baptist Church. So why can't a religious affiliation be involved in politics? Well, is that even legal to enforce?
Well, it is, because it's congressional. But I believe in limited involvement with churches. Influence. I believe in limited influence with politicians. Just like we have just take the church out of it and then put, I don't know, like Shell Oil or, another corporation.
Right.
It's the same thing with the influence of that company on a politician. I believe the same thing with the influence of a church on it, because we do have religious freedom. And so maybe your religion doesn't line up with my religion. Right. However, your religion, your leaders of your religion have the influence on the politicians that eventually affects my religion. Right. We all have religious freedom.
Right.
So I think it's not the involvement more say than the influence that a religion may have on a politician.
How do you feel about the border crisis? What's your opinion on that?
Did you even look at my stuff?
Well,
how
you know what? I can't have people look at your stuff. They're listening to you right now.
No, but you can say, well, I read the border crisis. The border crisis. We absolutely, again, living in Southern California on the front lines, we absolutely need to secure and protect our borders.
How would you do that as a senator?
I would introduce and pass and support any bill, any that would strengthen and secure the borders. First of all, people look at the southern border and they just look at one country. They blame Mexico for everything. It's not. Mexico is the gateway for the entire world who wants to come into the United States. So it's not securing the border because we're racist, we're anti, Mexican, we're this, we're that. Yeah. It's because if you're in China and you want to bring your fentanyl into the United States, which it's not Mexico that's producing fentanyl, that's coming from China. Yeah. China goes to Mexico, and then it comes over the border. Everybody who wants to get things illegally, including people and human trafficking over the border, goes to Mexico. I mean, how many of our terrorists, or our 9/11 terrorists, came over the Mexican border?
So what would your legislation say?
What would my legislation?
What would your legislation say to strengthen the border? What would the language? What would
That's
be in there?
That's an impossible question.
Would you say build the wall, build it higher? Would you say put more border guards on there? Would you say put electrical fence? Would you say put a sniper tower up?
Fence.
I mean, what?
Sniper fence?
I mean, people say, hey, let's. Well, I would introduce something to make the wall strong, make the border stronger. I'm like, okay, how?
Well, I'm not. Okay, first of all,
how?
First of all, I'm not just some green-nosed person just trying to get elected. I mean, I wouldn't just say anything. That's an idiotic answer to even say what you would do because you have no idea.
Maybe I'm an idiotic person.
I didn't say.
Now,
I said answer. I said question. So here's my answer to that question.
Thank you.
I don't know what I would do because I don't have all the facts. Why don't I have all the facts? Because I'm not in office and I'm not privy to certain information. I can say what I would do based on imaginary stuff that I can just come up with. However, without knowing the actual facts and things that you are privy to once you're in office, I can't come up with a solution unless I know what the problem is.
Let me tell you what I would do.
I know what the result of the issue is of unsecured border, but I don't know what needs to be done to secure the border. One thing I would do, and I've been saying this for years, even before Donald Trump said it, which is why I knew. I was like, people were saying, how are you going to make Mexico build a wall? I was like, spot on. What I would do is anybody who has people here illegal who allow them to come over, they'd get no more aid from the United States, which Donald Trump did.
Now we're talking.
Wait a minute. They get no more aid from the United States. No, that's not securing the border. That is a deterrent to the countries from letting their people come over.
That's part of securing the border, a deterrent. And if you say anybody that rents to illegals, they automatically get arrested, that's a deterrent. Anybody that hires illegals will get arrested. Their business will close. That's a deterrent.
Excuse me, but there's already laws in place for that. It's about enforcement. Okay, there are laws in place already.
Well, then let's enforce it.
Yeah, but you know what? Okay, so let's give a basic civics lesson. So the executive branch is the enforcement branch of the government. The legislative branch, which is what I'm running for, makes the laws. There's already laws in place that the legislative branch has made, right?
That's not enforced.
So now but the enforcement goes to the executive branch. That's why, I mean, like basic thing, that's what you should be asking. People who come on this show, you should be asking them, what's the job of a senator? What's the job of a Congress? Because some people don't even know what the hell their powers are when they get to office.
What is the job of a senator?
We are the higher chamber of Congress. Okay. We make the laws, okay, with Congress. Also, we are the trier of facts when it comes to impeachment. Okay, the Congress is like the indicter. They got indicted by Congress, and then Senate tries them. So we're the higher chamber of the lawmakers of Congress. We're the legislators.
So we
affirm. We also affirm appointments that the president makes to the administration. That's why we hold the Senate hearings for the appointments, the Supreme Court appointments, and that. So we are the higher chamber of Congress.
So when I asked what you would do as a senator to help with the border crisis, the border wall, and you were saying, I don't know all the facts. But if you were to pass some type of legislation to force states to improve ICE and to arrest people and deport them, wouldn't that help with the border wall?
Well, I've talked about that wouldn't help with the wall.
Wouldn't that help with people coming across the border?
That would help with the enforcement of our current laws. By the first thing Isn't
that what we want to do though, to enforce them? Isn't that what we want to do? Isn't that what we want to do? I'm the interviewer. Isn't that what we want? I remember I watched.
That's not interviewing.
Excuse me.
That's not interviewing. That's dictating. I like to answer the question.
I've seen you interview candidates before back in the day. You cut them off in the middle stream, and now you're being hypocritical about it.
You know why I don't do that? Let me tell you this, because I might be educating you. I might be doing my own detriment. But what I like to do is I like people to talk. Because then I get all kinds of information
Sometimes people
that I can follow up with because I let people hang themselves. That's what I do.
Politicians love to talk to run out the time, so you can't
I'm not
ask
running
them
out the
questions.
time. But it's not fair to not. I'm not afraid of answering questions, but I like to have the opportunity to answer the questions. So first of all, Congress has the power of the purse strings. So like you said, which is many interviews that I've done that I've talked about, is since Congress has the power of the purse strings, we can force states to do things that we want them to do by taking certain fundings away from them because we have the power. For example, there is a U.S. Supreme Court, it happened right here in Nevada, where Nevada was allowing guns in schools, right? It went and the feds went in and said, no guns in school. Supreme Court said, yes, that is a state right. They can do what they want to with the schools. And then the feds said, okay, guns in school, no more federal funding for schools. And guess what the state did? No guns in school. That's the power of the purse strings. Those are similar things that we can do to get states to comply with enforcing the laws that are already existing, because that's step one, is enforcing the laws that are already existing. And withholding funding from states that allow people to just cross the border, because it's not just about illegals being here, it's about safety, because there are people that are coming over, human trafficking, and that is a real big problem. And nobody really seems to be talking about that, is about the increase in human trafficking and that whole caravan that was coming over here, and how many children were there with grown people who they had no idea if they were actually legitimately should have those children.
Well, so, and I totally 100% respect your right to run for whatever office you want to run for.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. The only thing I'm curious about is, now this is me personally because I've known you for a long time.
Correct.
And I do understand how good of a lawyer you are in understanding the federal constitution. And I do think you'd be a good benefit for the state. I'm still curious though, why the Senate? I don't know why, I just don't care for the Senate for some reason. I'm more focused on the House. So why not run for Congress rather than the Senate?
Well, it's like this. I thought about Congress,
Uh-huh.
I did think about Congress.
Yeah.
But I also thought about getting a majority and winning a seat that would actually make a difference.
Yeah.
I think we're going to hold the seats that we have currently in 2024.
Yeah.
So adding another congressional seat to our already majority doesn't have as much impact as us winning the Senate. We didn't win the Senate. Like wanting to, and I'm so glad that that now government is somewhat going to be held accountable in regards to the committee that was formed to investigate the overreach and the abuse of power by all the three-letter government agencies.
Yeah.
But ain't shit gonna happen.
Right.
Excuse my bad English, but it's not, because we don't have the Senate. We can impeach and do whatever we want to,
Yeah.
but it's just for show because we don't have the Senate. Who tries the official that we're trying to? So I think the Senate is very important, and honestly, I think that I can get over that edge. I mean, look, we almost got it by 1%, which I don't understand why it was conceded to, but 1%. And I think I can get that 1% and more just based on the fact, not because I'm a woman, not because I'm Black, but because of who I am and the things that I bring to the table, where I'm appealing to both sides of the aisle, not because I'm a woman, not because I'm Black, because I'm for America. I don't care what I represent. People in my practice who are Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, I would represent, if you were a member of a racist skinhead group and you wanted to have a rally and you were denied a permit because they didn't like what you said, I would defend that individual for their First Amendment right, because everybody has a right under the First Amendment. Once you let the government start dictating and taking one right away, even if it's for somebody that you don't like, it's eventually you're gonna look and your rights are gonna be taken away.
Well, speaking of rights, I'm going to ask you another compound question.
Yes.
What do you feel about election integrity, and do you think that we have fair elections in the state?
So another little thing you don't know about me that I didn't get to say is that all the cases that were filed across the country for election fraud, the case that I'm on, which one of the causes of actions that I brought to the table, survived an appellate hearing. So my case for election fraud actually was dismissed on a 12B6 motion by the district court, appealed it in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, and we won the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. So do I think it's fraud? Yes. My election, miraculously, there was like 300 and some thousand new registered same-day voters. And, in that county, it was so, my opponent, both our polling.
I was talking about this state.
I'm saying that happens across the country. It's not just in one state. It happened across the country. I wasn't in this state when the election fraud happened. I was in California when the election fraud happened. And immediately, I did something about it. And the same issues that are in California are here. So perhaps somebody out there who's in Nevada should have brought a lawsuit for the same issues that I brought mine in California. Mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots are unconstitutional because the Supreme Court said so when the League of Women Voters brought a lawsuit in 2016 when Donald Trump was running that there should be more in-person voting locations because customarily African Americans vote in person, not by mail-in ballots. Now let's fast forward to 2020, everybody gets a mail-in ballot. However, if you walk into the polling location at 8:05 p.m., sorry, polls are closed. It closed at 8 o'clock, you can't vote. But guess what you can do? Go mail your ballot in and it counts up to 11:59 p.m. As long as it's postmarked for that day, not timed, not a timestamp, but a date stamp. So you can vote after polls close. They're treating mail-in ballot voters differently than they are in-person ballot voters. And according to the Supreme Court, they're disenfranchising the Black vote. So looking at things like that, that's the lawsuit that we brought in California. And that's the lawsuit that survived the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. And that's the lawsuit that just may make the difference in the next elections, or maybe 2026. It may not be 2024 because we got to go through the process. but we're actually making a difference. Hell yeah, there is voter fraud across the country. It's happening here. It's happening in California. It's happening in Rhode Island, in every state across the country.
Okay, I'm moving away from that now.
Sure.
How about eliminated the Keystone Pipeline? Do you think that was a smart move?
No.
And why is that?
Have you been to the gas station lately? I mean,
Yeah, I went there today.
Okay, and how much is your gas?
$4.11.
And how much?
Chevron.
How much was it 2.5 years ago?
I don't remember, but everything went up since 2.5 years ago.
I mean, no, but just particularly gas. You got to remember, yes, no.
First, I think I remember my uncle took a picture when Trump lost, and I believe, but to be fair, he's in Wyoming. Wyoming's gas is cheaper than in Nevada, just because of the oil fields and stuff. But
which are in the United States.
Yeah, he took a picture, and it was like $1.71.
Yeah. Well, Nevada gas prices aren't as bad as California. I don't think there's oil wells here in Nevada, but there certainly are in California. We refine gas there. We pump and refine it, and we ship it everywhere else. Yeah. And our gas is the second highest in the country next to Hawaii, who has to literally ship their gas in. So, that goes to tell you that, it's about policy. Yeah. And we have plenty of oil in California ourselves. I mean, we produce a lot of oil, and we produce a lot of oil in the United States. There's no need to depend on foreign oil, and Trump had it right. And as soon as we stopped.
Is that why we're the largest importer of oil in the world, exporter of oil in the world?
I'm sorry?
Is that why the United States is the largest exporter of oil in the world?
I'd have to check those facts. What's your source?
No, I'm just asking you the question.
No, I'm asking.
I'm not going by any source.
No, I'm asking your source. But you said, is that why the United States is the largest exporter of oil in the world? I don't believe that's true. So that's why I'm asking you what your source is, because maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that United States. I know we export the majority of our oil that's produced here. I believe, but I don't believe that we export more than, say, Saudi Arabia.
Are we the largest producer then?
I don't believe we're the largest producer. I believe Saudi Arabia is the largest producer.
Do you think we should be energy independent?
Yes, I think we should be independent of everything. I think we should be manufacturing independent. Do you remember when we manufactured things here in the United States? I mean, look what happened with COVID and our supply chain issue. Right. I mean, why are we dependent on other countries to produce everything? I mean, you think about it, and even our Constitution. Have you ever looked at some of these Constitution booklets? They're made in China. WTF, people?
It does seem a little odd that they.
But we're dependent on the rest of the world for everything.
So let me ask you.
Still living at home.
Let me ask you, based on that, when you get elected, one of the reasons why I think, correct me if your opinion's different. One of the reasons why I think we don't manufacture enough in this country is because the price in order to manufacture it, the labor costs, are so much higher than in another country.
That is correct, but think what you're doing. To get your inexpensive Walmart stuff, to get your inexpensive made in China stuff, do you know that that country essentially has enslaved its people to work in factories for little or nothing, so that you can save a few bucks? I'd rather pay a little bit more and know that the stuff that I'm buying wasn't the cost for that wasn't someone actually being enslaved by their country. I mean, especially like I said, being an Ados and my ancestors being slaves, I don't think it's right for us to want cheap stuff, and those countries don't have a labor commission. Those countries don't have a constitution like we do. So they actually, like the Walmart factory in China, do you know that they're forced to live in the dorms that are owned there, and your salary, rent comes out of your salary, your toilet is like a hole in the floor? That is the price. And there is no... in China.
China.
And then Bangladesh, like, look, I mean, hello, Nike. I think you guys got your shit together, but 10-year-old kids getting 25 cents a day to make your $300 Nikes, and all you athletes, that put their names on them and then sell them for more, but some kid was basically enslaved child labor to make those shoes. I mean, come on, we have a responsibility.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why, and this is off subject, so I'm just going to make it quick. Well, kind of on subject. That's one of the reasons why I've always gotten so frustrated about the NBA.
Yeah.
With all the money that they're making for China and Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And then another thing too, I never understood. So you start talking about environmentalists, right? And how concerned they are about the environment. However, they're really concerned about what we do here in this country, but they really don't care about what's going on in other. And they always talk about how it's all of our planets.
Unless you're China. They're the number one producers of all the plastic in the ocean that everybody's like complaining about, like why we got to get those paper straws that probably cause cancer. Why do we have to get those paper straws? Because China puts all that shit in the ocean. Yeah. We don't do it.
Yeah, because other countries don't have an EPA.
Because they don't have, China doesn't participate in lowering the carbon footprint and all that other shit. And they're like, what? Like a third of the population in the world?
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. Give me a break.
Well, since we're on that subject, what's your opinion on climate change?
Opinion on what?
On climate change.
I mean, that's like a broad question.
It is. Well, what do you feel about climate change as a senator? What would you do to end the carbon dioxide in the air? Do you believe that
first of all, about that,
ice pads are melting? I mean, what's your
there
story?
Was,
do you believe in Al Gore's theory? I mean,
did he invented the internet? No, I'm saying. No. First of all, I have children. I have grandchildren. Of course, I want my kids to grow up in a planet that's inhabitable. Okay, some things were just ridiculous. However, I also feel that something needs to be done, like you said, Jim, about the rest of the world. We're looking at us. We're getting fine. We're doing all this. Carbon credits I think that's a step in the right direction. I think that kind of balances things out. However, we need to do something about the rest of the world. Yeah. We have standards. We have an EPA. We don't just put cancerous stuff in the waters anymore. I mean, some companies do, but they get caught. But what the hell about the rest of the world who just dump stuff in the ocean and then it gets over here and it contaminates our water? We can do a lot here, but it doesn't make a difference if we're not holding the rest of the world, like China, accountable.
And then how do you explain, and here's the other thing too I've always wondered, then how do you explain too to your constituents that yes, well, the environment's going to be a lot safer if we enact all these crazy treaties and stuff that we want to, as long as you're willing to pay.
This is what I say.
Because costs are going up.
This is what I say. Without the United States, where would China be? We consume probably, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the stuff that they produce. Yeah. If we raise their import costs, like Trump did, if we hold higher standards for stuff that's coming from China, not like poison dog food and lead and children's toys, I think they would get on board because it's about the economy too, right? They need to make money. Without us, what money are they making?
Yeah, that's one thing that I've said too, is like with both countries are so reliant on each other that I think they would be more willing to work with us than. That's why I was so proud of Trump doing that. And it was interesting because that's the first Republican president that I've seen really push for tariffs. Because usually Republican presidents are like, no.
That's
because Bush did a little bit when that little compromise he made, but
that's like a fake fight.
Yeah.
When you're in the pocket, Mitch McConnell, when you're in the pocket of China,
right?
You really don't. you're kind of it's like that. Oh, stop it.
Right.
But you're really not doing anything.
Yeah.
Because you're in their pocket.
Yeah.
Trump wasn't in their pocket, so he actually did something, and we can actually do something by saying And I want to ask the environmentalists, like, you talk about the environment, but do you go to Walmart and buy China shit?
Right. Yeah.
Just saying.
Say that again about Walmart?
Walmart, the environmentalists who are all concerned about the environment, do they go to Walmart and buy things that are manufactured in China? That wasn't manufactured, that was compliant and inducive to the environment. Yeah. You're actually buying things that were manufactured that harm the environment. It's like they go in circles, and I don't think they know what the hell that they're even talking about half the time, these environmentalists. And that's why they actually talk about a reduction in population because of what people, the carbon footprint that people leave on the planet. So they're like, they're all for abortion. They're all for people having, they want to follow the China model, and people can only have limited amount of children. And it's like for the environment, but yet still they'll have some poor 10-year-old in China or Bangladesh make their stuff, and they don't have no problem with it.
That's why I freaked out when the Las Vegas Valley Water District, these people actually voted to allow them to put fluoride in the water.
Again?
I'm like, do you know? No, this is still the one you remember, I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm like going, well, I'm not saying fluoride's a bad thing. It is a good thing, but I don't like the government putting anything in my water.
Right.
It gets a little tricky because I've heard about like stuff where they want to do that and use it as birth control.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah.
What do you feel about the Black Lives Matter organization?
Feel about.
What's your opinion on it? Because they were all in the news for a few years now.
Okay, so I never supported the organization. I feel that the majority of them, particularly those higher up and leaders of the Black Lives Matter, were just opportunists. They didn't really give a shit about Black people. It was all about them. Because
the
if they
one that paid $2 million for a mansion.
Exactly. Because I don't understand, how can you say Black Lives Matter when every single day in the inner city, Black lives are being killed and murdered? Black on Black crime. I mean, that's police brutality on Black and people of color. It has nothing, can't even touch the everyday killing of Black on Black crimes. That's sporadic. That's a rarity, right? But it's when you put a spotlight on it, of course it just magnifies. But nobody's talking about Chicago. I mean, I grew up just 70 miles from Chicago. My uncle was murdered, by an illegal in Milwaukee. He was shot down and murdered for no reason. And even though he had police contact 3 times, the illegal did, and he was like, he would talk to himself. He'd walk around the neighborhood and just point guns at people, but nothing happened to him. Where's Black Lives Matter in those situations?
Well, I always get, maybe I'm kind of speaking out of turn here, but bear with me. I always get a little caught off guard when a group that supposedly that calls themselves Black Lives Matter, and I do think that like the way police officers' behavior, I think it did need to be addressed, just not in the way Black Lives Matter did it. I always get a little skeptical when a white person starts a group looking out for Black people.
Oh,
it catches me a little off guard because it's like, just because, and I know you hate this statement, but I'm going to make it anyway. Just because I have quite a few Black friends does not mean for 1 second that I think that I know what it's like to live in your skin.
Thank you for saying that, because somehow white liberals haven't gotten that memo.
Yeah, they didn't listen.
No.
And people don't pay attention to it. Malcolm X said that they were the biggest threat to the United States.
They said, yes, they were the biggest. And why? And he said because that the conservative, these are his words, the conservative, you could see them coming. You knew if they liked you or didn't like you. Right. However, the liberal will pretend to be your friend and will pretend to have your best interest. And they're the ones that are stabbing you in the back. They're the worst. Yeah, Malcolm X. But it's amazing. Like nobody, it's almost like liberals kind of demonized him so that you wouldn't actually read the words that he said, because that was so true. And that was a message to the Black community, was to not vote for the liberal. You don't have to vote for the liberal Democrats. But yeah. What's next, Steve? What you got?
So after 12 years of being in California,
Yes.
and you've been here now a total of 4 months since September,
Yes.
what do you have vested in the state of Nevada?
Children.
Children.
I have children.
Any
who live
small
here.
business or any land owned or anything of that nature?
Okay, so when you say
This is a valid question. You know why it's a valid question?
no, I want
Let me tell you why it's a valid question.
I'm trying to
Because you're hesitant.
No, I'm trying to understand the question.
Because I'm
trying to understand the question.
when people found out you were running,
Okay.
I've gotten phone calls, and you don't like the term of carpetbagger. So
Let him tell it to. Okay. Wait, whoever calls Steve, please call me 805-358-9737.
You're gonna get an opportunity to do that.
We'll have that conversation.
So one of the questions were, what do you have vested in the state of Nevada?
This is what I have, and this is one of the reasons why those people who called you are probably people who want to run. And I'm going to say this. First of all, figure out the office that you're running for and what that office does, because it's not about Nevada. It is about the United States of America. Because you know what? The people that we have in Senate right now, when they pass bills, when they vote on things, guess who it affects? It affects the entire country. So I'm not running for a local office, which you could ask me that question. At that point, that would be a valid question, because I'm running for a local office. I'm running for a statewide office that will affect the nation. So what?
The nation ain't voting for you.
I don't care.
Nevada is.
Exactly. And Nevada should vote for me based on what I can do when I get to Washington. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of this cliquish, I lived here for 30 years. I spent all my life here. I did bit. Well, what the hell have you been doing for the last 30 years? And when you go to Washington, you're going to be sitting there wondering what the fuck to do, because you don't even know what the office does. How I vote in Nevada will affect California, Wisconsin, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Texas, the entire country will it affect. So I'm sorry. And another thing, I believe in the Constitution, and I'm sorry, I didn't think that there was a prerequisite in the Constitution to run for Senate that required me to live in a state for a certain amount of time. It does not.
Well,
So you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to run around and use on my resume and on my campaign to say that I've been living here for 30 years, because I'm sorry, that is not a qualification to run for office.
I'm glad you brought that up. So what bills would you sponsor if you were United States Senate representing the state of Nevada?
That is such a
broad question.
ambiguous question. Can we get to a
What-
specific bill? Like, would you support this? Would you support that?
Well, you know
would
something?
you support this? And would you support that?
You want to know what I would do if I was running for Senate?
What, Steve? What would you do?
Okay. One bill I would support would be an easy transition for military to come out of the military back into civilian life. Another bill I would support is mental health across the whole country.
Is there a bill?
Another bill.
Is there a bill?
No, I would put together a bill.
Okay,
I would
but you didn't
sponsor
ask
a
me that
bill.
question. You asked
Okay.
me which bills you said which bills would I vote for?
No. I said, what bills would you sponsor
Yeah.
if you
what
were a
bills would I
United States
sponsor?
Senator? What bills would you sponsor if you were a United States Senator?
You didn't say what bills would you introduce or what bills would you push or what bills would you put
All right.
together. You said what bills would I sponsor? How the hell am I supposed to know
And
what
I just
bills
told
are
you
out
what
there?
bills I would sponsor.
No,
if I was running for
but
Senate.
why would you sponsor them and not introduce them yourself? Why do you sit around and wait for somebody else to do something
right.
and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna jump on that bandwagon?
All right.
I mean,
Lawyers
it makes no
always
sense.
talking forked tongues.
No, but
Now,
it doesn't. Does that make any sense?
No,
Jim,
I get it. I get
like,
it. You
really?
want to go around and around without answering
What,
the question.
this is what
Okay,
you
answer
said.
the
What are your
question.
issues?
Answer the question.
Right.
No, this is what. No, this is what. This is how I would ask the question.
You want to be the interviewer too?
What issues would you like to address if you're elected to
Oh my
Senate?
God.
There. That is a plain cross the board.
Good. If you knew exactly what I was getting at, why didn't you just
question.
answer the question to avoid all the bullshit?
I didn't know what you were getting at. I'm sorry, because I don't speculate. I need.
All right. Well, apparently you knew what I was saying because you just said it for
Number
me.
one. No, now that you explained it, but number one, and you and I have had this conversation before.
We're alive.
I know,
baby.
and I'm.
We're not talking about our little private conversations we had in the dog pound. We're talking about right now.
Actually, we had the conversation live on the air when I was interviewing here before, and what I want to do since no, I don't. But since the audience doesn't know,
were you running for U.S. Senate back then?
Audience, no, like you said, I ran for Congress.
What bill would you sponsor?
But since the audience does not know our conversations or may have not seen the show, I'm just letting the audience know that I've discussed this previously on the show when you talked about the transition, because that was one of my issues about how they don't the Veterans Affairs don't do, right now. What you just interrupted me. The Veterans Affairs do not do enough for veterans to transition from military life to civilian life. I have a case right now because I do pro bono work for veterans and for legal. He's facing attempted murder. He has PTSD. He served 3 tours in Fallujah, was blown up 3 times, has a traumatic brain injury, and they wouldn't let him in veterans court. They're prosecuting him, not even taking into consideration the issues that he had that are service related. He has disability from these same injuries, but the state courts not even acknowledging it. And there has to be something that is federally done. And Julia Brownlee, who I ran against, is actually on the Veterans Affairs Committee and does nothing. But I think that those cases should automatically, from a congressional standpoint, a congressional bill should automatically be that people like that, veterans, go to a completely separate court, not a state court, but a federally funded federal court where they are tried, where it has to be taken in consideration their past history in the military. How do you expect people to be blown up, watch their friends die in front of them, and actually be normal,
be able to just
and
jump right
function,
back into,
and not be triggered by someone, which is exactly what happened in the case that I'm representing. So I think that and veterans do not get enough attention, enough assistance. They're kind of swept under the rug, unseen. And I do a lot currently, even though I'm not a politician. I mean, I'm not an elected politician, and I'm not just trying to get attention, but I have veterans that you can talk to. Actually, I got a call 2 days ago from another veteran because they're not getting their benefit. They're owed $300,000 in back pay and they're not getting their benefits, and they call me. I don't advertise. They just call me. You know why? Because I'm the one who cares and I'm the one who gets shit done. And so I didn't come out the gate with that. I know I'm on Veterans in Politics. I know what your issues are. I know where your heart is, and your heart is with veterans. And I didn't come out the gate trying to suck up and say, this is what I'm doing for veterans, but this is what I do every single day. Veterans are my priority. My dad is a 100% disabled Vietnam vet.
What other bills would you sponsor?
My FHA bill, so that there's more home ownership. People have an opportunity to own homes, because you have to remember too, where you live is where your kids are going to go to school. Yeah. I mean, and do you think it's by design that the shittiest schools are in the shittiest neighborhoods where people are poor, and 99% of the time they're leasing from some slumlord? Of course. Right. Where people who can afford a home in a decent neighborhood, what are those schools like? Right. It's equal education. But yet and still, the unions fight against school vouchers. Yeah. Okay. That's another one.
You mentioned to me, or you mentioned to all of us, that as a U.S. Senator, you represent the entire state, the entire country.
Correct.
Okay. But unfortunately, Wisconsin, Rhode Island, New York, and all those other states are not going to vote for you.
Okay.
Nevada is the one that's going to vote. So, what's important to Nevadans? Do you know? Do you know what's important to us?
That is a very...
I know, broad and
no, that's not what I was
ambiguous
going to say.
statement,
I was
and
going
I
to
should
say...
ask it this way.
No, that's not what I was going to say. That was not what I was going to say. You just put everybody... That's like the classic politician who answers the question, who is giving you a bunch of bullshit, because what's important to you may not be what's important to you. What's important to me may not be important to the one person. You can't put everybody in the same category. I can say one thing. I can say what? No, because you can say this is what you think is important to Nevada.
Oh, I can tell you because I've been here a minute.
You've been here
without
a minute.
leaving.
So when was the last time? When was the last time you were on the west side of MLK? Because I was just there a week and a half ago, having extensive conversations with those
homeless
people.
issues and crime.
Homeless issues and crime.
And the economy.
Homeless issues and crime. And that's, so you just generalize, because I can tell you right now.
No, that's from talking to North Las Vegas City Council members.
Oh my God. So wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Why can't you just answer the question?
I am going to answer the question. Isn't that an oxymoron? So you spoke to the city council and a politician, and that politician told you, who's probably out of touch with the community in North Las Vegas, by the way.
Take it from somebody that ran 3 times for Congress, calling other people a politician.
Yes, and you know what? And I would hope that a politician or a person wouldn't take my opinion as to what the people want and actually sit down and talk to the people. Because I can tell you right now, the 3 things that you said, the people who live in North Las Vegas, the hood people, the real people.
Where do you live?
In North Las Vegas. I'm not going to say where I live.
Do you live in North Las Vegas?
I don't live in North Las Vegas.
Do you live where the hood people are?
I live where some hood people are, yes.
Where's that?
I'm not saying where I live.
What
are
side
you
of
kidding
town?
me?
What side of town do you live in?
Can I finish answering the question
You don't want
first?
to answer that question.
I do want to answer the question. Okay. But you know where I live? I live in a neighborhood where I got opportunity. I didn't get a Section 8 voucher. I built opportunity for myself.
Is it gated?
Yes, it is. And it's gated because I had a co-counsel that was murdered on a case that I was on. His name is Mark Angelucci.
And where was this guy murdered at?
He was murdered in San Bernardino.
California, but you were in Nevada now.
The death threats that I got didn't come from California. They came from another state.
Nevada?
No, they didn't come from Nevada. But like the person who murdered Mark came from New Jersey. He got his ass on a train, came to New Jersey and murdered him. And I got my own death threats. So it doesn't matter what side, what state you live in. If you're doing something right and people don't want you doing what you're doing, or you're putting light on something they don't want light shed on, you're a target.
Believe me, I do know this.
Okay, then. So
I've had several death threats.
Would you give your address on your where you live?
I didn't ask for your address.
Okay,
what side of damn town do you live on? I live in Centennial Hills. Come on down.
Oh, that's a big thing.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway,
you can't get a straight answer from this woman.
I live on you're asking me specifics about where I live, and I said I wouldn't say that. Now,
what side of town do you live on? How about that?
The southwest side of town.
Thank you.
Now, back to what I was saying. You can't say boots on the ground is the only way that you can get your pulse on what the real issues are. Because what you said the real issues are not the issues that the West Side have. Those aren't their issues. Those aren't their issues. Maybe the economy, jobs is one thing that's part of the economy, but they're not going to say it's not crime.
Homelessness. Oh, yeah, it definitely is crime.
You know what? I challenge you, Steve, that I want...
Really?
Yes. I want to take a camera, and I want you to go with me to actually walk.
Done. You tell
walk
me
through
when.
the West Side.
And we're going to do live on freaking Facebook.
What are the prominent...
Don't
what are the
me
prominent...
because
I'll be
I
want to do it. Absolutely.
Done.
Absolutely.
Live on Facebook, and I'm bringing Mark with me.
Where are the prominent gangs in North Las Vegas? What's the most prominent gang in North Las Vegas? You know?
You tell me.
Do you know?
Because I'm just asking you what's important to Nevada.
No, but you're saying because you're talking about because you're generalizing.
You don't know what's important to Nevadans, do you?
I can't say what's important to Nevadans. Like there's 3 issues, and that's for everybody.
No,
That's not.
You brought North Las Vegas, and I was telling you what's
said
important in North Las Vegas.
No, you brought up North Las Vegas because you told me that was important in North Las Vegas, and I'm telling you that you're talking to a North Las Vegas
you brought up
councilman.
Martin Luther King Boulevard,
No,
and all
who probably
that.
never even walked through North Las Vegas.
Okay.
Has that council member actually walked through North Las Vegas?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they
what
have.
part? Not the new part. You talking about the new part? I'm talking about like the one where the girl was carjacked at. Has he walked through there?
8th Street. You familiar with 8th
I'm
Street?
very familiar with 8th Street, but that's not
Would you walk down there right now in 8th Street?
I would go to, actually, after I leave here, I'm going down to the studio down on
What's
MLK.
important to Nevadans? Well, all right, strike that. What do you believe is important to Nevadans after you've been here for 4 months?
Okay, first of all, I wasn't here for 4 months, so let's clarify.
You were gone for 12 years and you've been back 4 months.
Let's clarify that statement.
You were gone 12 years, right?
And Steve,
back 4 months.
you should make a disclosure like you made about me being on that there's one candidate who is running for Senate that you have already told me that you are supporting and you've endorsed.
That's true.
So you should
That's
make
true.
that disclosure.
That's true.
To know, because I know which person is
I
asking.
can't
these
wait till
questions.
she gets on the show.
I can't wait till she gets on. I can't wait to a debate either.
What's important to Nevadans? Do you know?
In regards to, yes, and what you're saying, Steve, is.
And I'm talking from northern Nevada, Reno, Washoe, Incline Village, all those places, all the way down here.
I can tell you what should be.
Gene,
I can tell you
Las Vegas.
I can tell you what should be important to Nevada.
What?
But in regards to doing a cookie cutter on the entire state, I don't do that. I can't say what's important to California. I can say what's important to the country. Okay. I can say what's important.
That's even more. That's 339 million people. I'm only here talking about 3.5 million. If that, you could say what's important about the entire country, but you can't say what's important about the state you're running for office in.
Yes, it does. Because I'm not running for a local office. I'm running for a federal office.
Nevadans are going to vote for you.
Federal office,
not New York,
not a state
not Wisconsin.
office. What's important for? Okay, so you say crime, the economy.
That's just in North Las Vegas.
You said crime. Then why are you asking me about the entire state? You're asking about
what's
Las
important
Vegas,
to
but then
Nevadans?
You're asking about the entire state.
I could say water.
I can say no. This is what I can say. What I feel is important or important issues. Because somebody might like some people in California, their major issue is the environment and the smelt that's being, the little small fish why farmers are starving. Yeah, that's not important to me, that I feel is important to the country. One of the things that you said is the economy. That is the number one issue across the entire country. The loss of jobs, recovering from COVID, ensuring that when this new variant hits the United States, which it will soon, it already has in some places, that we do not have a repeat of 2020. That there is a plan in place.
You're talking about shutting down the state.
Yeah, where there is a plan in place where we're safe, but we're not infringing on people's constitutional rights. To ensuring that the politicians who are currently in office, if they roll over for the federal government and shutting down the state, that they're held accountable. Okay. Human trafficking is another issue that I feel should be important to Nevada, because there's a lot of those girls who are trafficked end up right here in Las Vegas, and something should be done about that. Number 2, having equal opportunity for businesses for the most vulnerable communities here in Nevada. For example, when the stadium was built, how many minority subcontractors do you think were subcontracted to build that $1.3 billion stadium?
A lot.
No, not a lot.
How much you think?
About 3.
Why you say that?
Because I've had those subcontractors come to me, and I've had subcontractors who did not, who qualified, were well qualified, but did not get those jobs. There was just enough to be able to appear to be giving opportunity.
You filed for office already, right? for U.S. Senate?
Is that enough for my question?
Yeah. You filed for U.S. Senate already, right?
I did.
Okay. When that other person that you're alluding to files, believe me, I'm going to tear into that person too. But with that said, because you brought up one of my other questions, who do you think is running for U.S. Senate besides yourself?
Well, I know one other person. Well, they haven't declared yet, but I know one other person because you told me that person. But other than that, I don't know who else is. And quite frankly, I really don't care. It doesn't affect my decision.
Do you think we should stay out of Ukraine?
I don't think we should have been there in the first place.
I don't think we're there yet, are we?
What, not officially, but yes, we're there.
In other words, do you agree with the amount of military aid and money that we're providing?
No, I don't agree with that.
Because right now, I don't believe there's, well, what we are told, there's not boots on the ground, but I'm sure there's some type of special forces.
We don't have. Okay, so let's clear. We may not have U.S. troops on the ground, but there's other troops that are being funded by the United States. We might as well have boots on the ground.
Yeah. Right.
They're boots on the ground by proxy.
Yeah.
Would you support an independent Taiwan? Why and why not?
Of course I would. I would because, number one, if you remember, before the China virus hit us, and yes, it's the China virus because that's where it originated from. Yeah. Do you remember what was going on in Taiwan?
No, tell me.
They were rioting. They were protesting. They had signs up. Yeah. They want the Constitution like we have it, asking President Trump to come and help them. They wanted freedom. They loved the United States. And then how did China shut that down? It just all went away, right? COVID hit, and then you didn't hear anymore. That was the biggest story, was Taiwan and their freedom and asking us for help and saying how they love the Constitution. And then COVID hits and it just goes away. I think, yeah, absolutely, they should have their independence.
What about Iran? What do you feel about them? Do you think that they violated the terms of our agreement with the nuclear arms that they're trying to build?
Well, do I think they
do you believe? Do you think that?
Of course they did.
What would you do about that as a U.S. Senate, hypothetically?
I would go, well, first of all, it would be pretty tricky for Congress to actually do something about it, because we have to remember the powers of Congress and the powers of the executive branch. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the purse strings and funding packages and things of that sort, we have the power of that. But when it comes to foreign policy and dealing with the government, the United States, yeah, that's not a congressional power. Mm-hmm. So I truly believe, and I wholeheartedly always believe in Congress using the power of the purse strings, right, and even putting pressure on Iran's allies through the power of the purse strings. But I don't believe in violating the separation of powers, no matter how important we think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Part of the job of the Senate is to confirm a Supreme Court justice, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would you have confirmed Justice Jackson? Why or why not?
Would I have confirmed her? Probably not.
Why is that?
Only because biologically she didn't know the difference between a boy and a girl.
Okay. Speaking of that, how about hypersex ed in classrooms?
One of the reasons why my kids are not in California school, even though I was in one of the best school districts in California, the education of my kids, the great education of my kids, wasn't outweighed by the propaganda and the sex ed that they were actually teaching kindergartners. And if you have you seen any of the books, not just in California, but they're using this curriculum in other states too. Have you seen any of those books in the curriculum that they're teaching?
No.
If you saw it, you would think you're reading like a pornography magazine. Actually, cartoons having positions and teaching kids about anal sex, and it's really disgusting what they're teaching children.
At what age are you seeing that though? Because I have an individual that, like, I've said the same thing, and every time I go on a show, he swears up and down that race theory is not being taught in schools. He said that's a fallacy.
No.
He said it's also he said this stuff's only being taught on college campuses.
No,
it's not being taught. It's not being taught at the grade school level.
No, yes, it is. So all you have to do is do a little research and go on and look at the curriculum and the legislation that was passed in California. You can see what's being taught. I've actually seen these books. This is not something that's just made up. It's not something that, the more graphic stuff is being taught from middle school up, but from kindergarten, they do talk about sexual acts and what happens when you have two mommies and two daddies and how they have a baby, stuff like that. Which is, if people want to have those conversations with their children, that's completely up to them. But as a parent, those are conversations that I need to have with my kids when I choose that it's appropriate to have with them, with my kids. And no. So I want to make it clear, I'm not homophobic. My mom's gay. I've known, I was raised by my grandparents, but I know she's so, a lot of times people are like, would accuse people of being homophobic and this and that. I'm like, no, it's just what I teach my children at a right time. It's my choice. And there really is pornographic materials being taught to children in school. Okay. Not a fallacy.
I'm going to ask another compound question.
Go ahead and away.
And I don't know if you're going to like the way I phrase it. You might want to spin it somewhere other different.
No, it's not spinning it. I need clarification because it's clarification, because that's where that's clips come in where that's not what I said. That's not what I asked. Okay. It's
how do you feel about boys and girls sports, locker rooms, bathrooms, and what's your opinion on drag queens?
Okay, so first of all, anybody out there can Google me, look at my interviews and that I've talked about this on Newsmax, Sean's.
It's probably going to be
everywhere.
The hardest interview you've ever had.
No, it's not. However, I went on.
Glad to know.
I was on InfoWars, survived InfoWars, just fine. But anyway, girls are girls, boys are boys. I don't want my girls, my 10-year-old daughters, in the restroom with some boy because that boy says that he's a girl and still has all his male parts. That's happened in California again, where there was a girl that was raped, sexually assaulted by a boy who was actually a boy, but saying that they were a girl.
Oh yeah.
And boys should be unless you have completely transitioned and you're a female, you need to be in the men's bathroom and the men's locker room, and vice versa. And as far as sports goes, if you are still a man, you have a penis, you still have testosterone, the majority of it. I mean, women have it too, but you are
it's more
male,
dominant in men than women. Yeah.
You need to be out of women's sports, period, and compete with other men.
Right.
And because I said this before, I say we have add a new Olympic sport on who gives birth to the biggest baby, and dare the men to participate in that sport because they can't have children. So, boys sports, men's sports boys and men should be in those sports. Girls and men. I mean, girls and women to be in their own sports. So, yeah.
I have one final question for you,
Final question.
Miss Kennedy. And this is not Jeopardy where you get the $200. I don't know if Jim is going to have another question after this question.
Go ahead, Jim.
But-
I like Jim's questions.
Of course you do.
Well, no,
he's
because
been
Jim's reason-
softballing you
No,
since
because
you walked in here.
because I understand his questions.
We're playing good cop, bad cop today. Today I decided to be bad
Oh,
cop.
you could be bad.
We
cop.
used to play that too, remember?
But I'm not afraid of any bad
Good.
cops. I mean, I'm not afraid of cops, period. So, like,
Do you believe in reparation? And then California passed a reparation law. And should the federal government issue reparations to African Americans? Why and why not?
to African Americans? Why are you saying African Americans?
It's a reparation when you give if a
No, I
person.
understand. I know what I know what reparations are.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, just because you're African American does not mean you're a direct descendant of slaves. I mean, you could have immigrated from Africa last year. You're an African American, but that doesn't mean that you're getting reparations.
So if you're a direct descendant
and
of
white
slaves,
people can be direct descendants of slaves too, you know. So
True.
yeah. So do I believe in reparations?
Yes.
Okay.
She's finally getting it. Answer the damn question.
I gotta
She
answer
finally
it.
got it on the last question.
I'm not intentionally softballing
On the
anybody.
last
I'm
question.
just enjoying this.
On the last question, she finally got it. Just answer the damn question.
No, Steve. It's like this. You want to be bad cop and give me a hard time? I'm gonna give the shit right back. You know that. So
I'm not giving you a hard time.
anyway,
I'm giving you things that's going to be on this campaign trail.
Oh, and I believe me. Okay, I'm just saying this is kindergarten. I've already been to graduate school with the grilling.
I made the kindergarten almost
with the
earlier.
grilling that I got in California. I mean, can you imagine what's like running against Adam Schiff? Okay, period. Anyway, do I believe in reparations? I do not believe in federal government reparations. Do I believe that slaves or direct descendants of slaves should be compensated? Yes. Where do I think that compensation?
But they're not the ones that
Can
were
I
slaves.
finish?
Oh.
You asked me a
No,
question.
You're right. I'll address it with a follow-up.
If you're a direct descendant of slaves, do I feel you should be compensated? Yes. Where the compensation comes from? It comes from tracing your family back to a plantation, and that plantation benefited from slaves and are still wealthy today. There's a lot of them, like the DuPonts. Yes, they should be paying those descendants of slaves because they are still in business and they benefited from free labor from those slaves. I don't think that taxpayers should be paying for it. I think those who benefited from slavery should be paying for it. And also, a lot of the companies whose names have changed, but they're still in business, who participated in the slave trade should be paying for it, not the taxpayers.
Even if that person that's going to receive the money was not a slave, don't even know what the heartache is for his ancestors.
Didn't I just say to trace it back to a plantation?
I know, but I'm saying, the recipient of that money tracing back is all the slave, all the people
Let me
that.
ask you this.
What Steve's saying is so much time has passed just
Really?
because your grandfather was a slave, correct?
My great-great-grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so basically there's a lot of people that are going to make the case like, okay, why do you deserve money because of that?
Because
From any corporate, from the corporation.
if that plantation benefited from slavery, because let's just say this, you invented that little doohickey right there, or the cell phone. I'm not you, but your ancestor did, and it was stolen, and you find out that hey, they had a patent and it was stolen.
Oh, that's different.
No, it's not different. Does that descendant would inherit the patent, would inherit the benefits from inventing whatever they invented?
Yeah.
They would.
Yeah.
So that was their inheritance to pass down to their family.
What happened if there wasn't any patent? Just because they were just a slave, period. No patent, no royalties, no nothing. Should let's say my great grandfather was a slave. I don't know what I've never experienced being a slave. Should I get the monies that my great-great-grandfather should have gotten?
Did they
Because he's the
work-
one that was a slave, not me.
It's okay. It's like this. So your grandfather, you're the next heir for your grandfather, right? Let's just say that. Your grandfather was injured some type of way and has a pending claim. Okay, where does that recovery from that claim? Where does it go to?
It would go to you.
Exactly, same difference. So your relative, and you're a descendant of them. It passes down. So say that you were gone.
But I'm not the injured party, though.
It doesn't matter. It's passed down to the next heir.
So in other words,
Your
yes.
estate passed down to the next heir. So if you can trace it, and that company benefited, that plantation benefited, but you know why Democrats don't want to do that? You know why they want the taxpayers to pay for it and not looking at that angle?
More votes.
Not just more votes, but who are those families? They're all the big Democrat supporters.
Mm-hmm.
That's who would be paying for it. They're the ones who benefited.
Yep.
Okay.
You get the DuPonts. Who do they support?
Right.
I'm
Miss Kennedy,
They don't support
Ms. Kennedy.
Republicans. Mr. Sampson.
did we cover everything you'd like, or did we miss something you'd want to cover?
I just want to say that I can't wait till this Rumble starts because a lot of people are doing this, but they obviously don't know Ronda Kennedy yet. And they really should Google me or call California and ask somebody
Oh.
that, I don't back down. I will challenge. I will answer any questions, as you can see. And I will answer them truthfully, honestly. I won't make stuff up and be like, this sounds good to the public. I'm a woman of my word. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to someone calling me a carpetbagger because someone, I've had that term
Jim already
before.
got shirts made for you.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Mr.
Perfect.
Jonas, do you have any other questions for Ms. Kennedy?
I have one last question.
Yes.
Term limits. Now, I would ask you, are you for or against them? But my personal opinion is it's never going to happen. I just don't see the Congress actually voting to limit their amount of terms.
I don't see that either. But you know what's very interesting? I honestly think that the term limits that Congress set on the president, on the executive branch, can be challenged in the Supreme Court because they change the checks and balances. There's no longer an equal checks and balance. The legislative branch has the advantage now than the executive branch.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan said that in his exit interview too.
Yeah.
But are you for them or against them? And if you're not for them, would you term limit yourself?
Oh yeah, I don't want to be a career politician. No.
One
I definitely-
term, 2 terms.
I wanted, 2 terms max.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 2 terms max. And I think the flip side of that though is that's what the founding fathers intended. The founding fathers intended for politicians to term limit themselves.
Right. Yeah.
That takes the opportunity from people from voting for you. I don't know. I think there should be term limits, but I think there should be a self-governing term limits because, and I started looking at this a different way. Like if you're the people and you keep voting for that person, that's your right to say, this is who I want as my representative. But if a person term limits themselves, then the people have to move on to someone else. So it's I kind of got torn on that when I looked at it from the people's standpoint. Like if the people wanted to vote for somebody, wanted to vote for a president to serve 3 terms, 4 terms, that should be the right of the people,
And then one last question for
I
you.
thought that was your last question.
That's just. Hold on.
No.
I thought of
Well, you
another
took
one.
all the questions, Jim.
I
didn't get to
thought
answer
of
that
another
much.
one though,
right, Jim?
and this is something that Steve and I are very passionate about. So, what do you think? First off, what's your feeling on the War Powers Act?
Compound question.
And then how do you think we could tweak it? Because I just honestly think it gives the president more power than he was specifically intended to have in the Constitution.
I agree. However, I think that's something the Supreme Court's going to have to decide. That needs to be challenged in the Supreme Court. And the president has been, not the current president, but who was it? I'm trying to think who it was. I can't recall the Supreme Court case specifically, but it's around World War II. Who's president? It was on the.
Was it under FDR, Truman?
It might have been. No, it wasn't FDR. But anyway, the executive powers and executive orders and the powers of the president have been challenged several times in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has limited the president's power and said, no, it's unconstitutional, you can't do that several times. However, I believe that there are parts of the government, politicians, who all work together on both sides of the aisle. They pretend they want to change something, they pretend like they're fighting, but really they're on the same side.
Oh, yeah.
Because if
the unity party.
Exactly, yeah. And if they want, what I'm saying is if that was really an issue, it would be challenged in the Supreme Court and limited. But both sides get along with that.
Yeah,
Well, Ms. Kennedy, thank you for coming on the program. Jim, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
But we're not going to go yet. Mark's going to zoom in on you, and you can say the final word, how people can get a hold of you, your website, what have you, and why people need to vote for you. Got it.
Okay. I'm Ronda Kennedy. I'm running for Senate here in Nevada. And I want to not tell you to vote for me. I want to earn your vote. It's a long run until 2024, and I hope that you can see me for who I am, know that I'm a person, again, that gets things done, and I am the people's candidate, and I'm looking forward to earning your vote. You can get a hold of me and check out my website, follow me on social media at rondakennedy.com. That's rondakennedy.com.
Again, thank you so much, Ms. Kennedy, for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Folks,
It's been a pleasure.
that's Ronda Kennedy. She's running for United States Senate, representing the great state of Nevada. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.